Oh, well, well, well. I almost think that we saw the first episode of a Halo today.
Yeah, that was strange. I was going into today's episode thinking, it's gonna be boring, and for the first time in forever, the show was not boring. There's still lots of bad stuff, but I think I actually enjoyed parts of this one.
It's strange. Like, this was actually Halo. After God only... no, hold on. So we got episode 1, which was alright. It was a major disappointment due to the simple fact that Master Chief takes off his helmet in the very first episode, and you can already see the shadow on the wall of the bullshit that's going to be ahead. But it had some action sequences. If nothing else, it came across as something at least trying to be a Halo TV show. But after that, it was 3 episodes of just complete halt, where virtually nothing was happening. And now, finally, we're actually back at having Halo again. People are firing weapons at one another. It's incredible.
And it's not just about the human interconflict thing, which was a really annoying arc that they've been pushing with Kwan. Where it's like, oh, gotta worry about the Nazis. It's like, I don't care about the Nazis. I want to shoot the aliens. Oh my goodness. But yes, this episode was quite good. And for once, there's a lot of cool things in the action sequences that are actually homages to the game for a change.
Homage.
There's a homage, leave me alone.
No.
But okay, there was one thing right before the action sequence started that set me on a bad mood, was when he's like, Cortana's like trying to tell him what to do, and he's like, I know how the game is played, and I think my spine turned to jello at that point. That was pretty bad. I was like, oh, I was like, no, don't do that.
It was a pinch, shall we say, on the nose, sure.
But before we get into the action, because the action is the interesting shit, let's talk about the beginning part. So what happens in the beginning of this episode, story-wise? Where are we at, Arch? Come on.
I have no idea.
Oh my god! Okay, so that's fair. I mean, I don't blame anyone for zoning out anymore. The artifact, the space MacGuffin, they find the part 2. The part 2 reveals itself after squealing at people, as it's a hole. And guess what goes in the hole? Another triangle. Because it's shaped like the other triangle. It's literally a 2-year-old puzzle. The Forerunners weren't very big-brained, I don't think. Like, this triangle goes into the triangle hole.
But fortunately, we don't have to worry about that, because the triangle was taken away by a big burly man. So none of that matters. None of that matters at all. The only thing that anyone should concern themselves about is that weapons were fired in this episode.
Yes, and a lot of weapons. There was a pretty big battle over the artifact excavation site because the UNSC were there. They had a ship parked in low orbit, which got blasted out of the sky, and it exploded, which kind of was a little annoying because, like, oh, here we go with the UNSC ships just hovering above the little atmosphere. It's like, I'm just chilling here, totally vulnerable.
Hey, here's the thing, right? Up until the previous episode now, the last episodes, the primary argument and complaint has always been the story's shit, and there's far too much of it. There's characters talking that we don't know, that we don't care about, and that we don't want to see. In this episode, almost all of that is completely ignored. The only thing we really get is Master Chief noticing that Kiwi, I'm just going to call her Kiwi now, has been smearing gun grease on her hair, and he figures out that this means that she's removed her pellet. And then they have a little bit of a confrontation, and Master Chief goes, "Woman, you will become all emotional in battle." And she goes, "No, I am strong and independent." And then later on, she goes all emotional in battle, and Master Chief has to save her.
Which is funny, because Master Chief removed his pellet too, but he didn't have an emotional meltdown like she did.
It's remarkably based in red pills, actually.
Actually, I'm just annoyed at this, because these soldiers are battle-hardened. Yes, they have the emotional suppressant thing, but even without the emotional suppressant, they do have this thing called experience. Like, their emotions don't just overwhelm them. But again, like you said, it's very red-pilled in that way where it's like, women can't control their emotions, so she just turns into a blubbering mess while men do all the work. And also the Black Spartan had the best friggin' line in this episode where he just basically told her to shut the fuck up. Cause she put the gun grease in your hair is making you dumb or something like that.
Yep.
A dumbass.
He asked her
funny.
if the gun grease in her hair has been seeping into her brain because she's asking stupid questions.
Stupid ass question. Oh, that was good. That was the first time I chuckled, and immediately I've already grown to like the Black Spartan, I think, the most. He's my new favorite dude.
Yeah, that was all it took. And that's exactly why this episode is so much better than the others, because all of that stupid ass drama, all of these pointless characters, they're gone. And we're just having action again. Now, Pablo still removes his helmet far too goddamn often, and we still have that bloody internal camera. Every time I'm on the edge of going, holy shit, it's Master Chief. They have to switch to that internal camera just to remind me that, no, it's actually just Pablo.
I almost wish they would use the internal camera over taking his helmet off at every opportunity he gets.
I mean, it would be
Yes, it's still
better.
bad. It's still bad. Don't get me wrong. The correct answer is to never show his face. Ever. But, oh my goodness, the fact that he just plops his little helmet off, like every 5 minutes. It's like, Jesus, off on, off on, off on, off on. Leave it on.
Especially also, as in episode 1, they very clearly stated that this wasn't something he used to do. The helmet was on because it was convenient. It was where he had all of his data, etc. He never really saw a particular reason to take it off. And so the fact that now he can't take it off fast enough, again, it breaks my emotion every time. Because I'm like, oh, Master Chief's gone. There's the actor again.
Yeah, that's true. And that's how Cortana can point things out to him in his heads-up display, marking objectives on his nav points and stuff like that.
But even despite all of that, this was the most Halo we've ever seen. In fact, we noted that this episode was only 40 minutes long, so it's 15 minutes shorter than the preceding episodes. And my god, how much better would this show be if they just sliced 15 minutes of episode 2, 3, and 4 and condensed that shit down?
Yep, and I'd understand that these episodes are expensive, and you know what I wish they would do? Watching this episode made me realize that this episode was more structured like a Halo mission in the video games, where there's story sections in the beginning of every mission normally, or maybe in between, and they're relatively short and sweet, but they establish the point of what the characters are doing and what their objectives are, and then the action normally starts as the mission begins, Honestly, if they just followed that format and then used the action to convey the storytelling of them completing their missions and overcoming those challenges, that would be preferable. And I get that that's expensive, right? But why not cut the TV show in half? I would rather take 4 to 5 episodes of that per season than 9 episodes of awfulness. Well,
Yeah,
let's say 9 episodes intermixed with an okay to as an immediate entertaining episode.
That's a good point, because the story elements are still here. It's still communicated. There's the magical MacGuffin, which they're arguing over whether or not it's a weapon. I mean, they have no reason to assume it's a weapon or anything for this at all at this point. All of these scientists are too stupid to plonk the square in the other square, a triangle. But it is communicated. The thing is there. They have to get the other triangle out of the way of the Covenant whilst trying to recover the larger triangle. The story elements are presented. And then you have a stupid-ass Covenant lady who's like, yes, just fire me by Covenant drop pod into the midst of the enemy. I'm sure they won't see anything suspicious about that. And she's correct.
Oh.
But
You had to remind me of that.
The action makes it actually watchable. Shit is happening. Master Chief is shooting things. People are shooting things. There's a war going on all of a sudden. A war that I care about. It's the war between the humans and the Covenant. Not some Korean chick's personal crusade on a planet in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, that's very true. Honestly, I think there's so much to be learned from season 1 here. Like cutting Kwan, we could cut Kwan's entire story arc. She's pointless. Her character is not interesting and brings little to nothing to the actual story. Getting rid of her would be the best.
Kwan is completely irrelevant at this point. Like, she's been in every episode, yet hasn't done anything of value ever.
Yep, because the writers want to keep her around because they're intending to do something with her. But the problem is there's nothing for her to do because they're not at the plot point in which she does something. That's the problem here. So we're stuck getting her story and the pirate Spartan story, where they just waffle around in the desert in today's episode.
Neither one of which is interesting. Like, okay, escaped Spartan, radio there. You've got a side plot there, if nothing else, right? You can go like, oh, I escaped the Spartan training program. John, they did experiments on you. Ooh, my penis works now because the power of the mind. He is a character that is intended to give gravitas and understanding to Master Chief. That is his role. He is supposed to be what Master Chief could have been if he had bent the rules more and tried and escaped, etc. Making him a full-blown character makes no real sense. It's not his purpose in the story. And as for Kwan, she has no purpose in the story. Madrigal is an entirely inconsequential little shit planet off in the middle of nowhere. The rebellion is not a plot point. The Human Covenant War is the plot here.
Yeah. That's very true. Like, the thing is with Kwan and her story, like, the rebellion at this point is not really a thing anymore. If they wanted to do something with that, they should have gone to the point in the story where Contact Harvest happened, where the humans and the Covenant finally met each other, and then the Covenant decided to genocide humanity because we were too much of a threat. We couldn't be absorbed into their society because we were we presented too many problems to their religion.
And if you really absolutely had to do some kind of a silly-willy plot line with this human part right here, if you have to do something like this, okay, what you do is you have the Resistance having a war against the UNSC, the Earth government, and then being forced to cooperate alongside them to escape from the Covenant. Simple as. You have a little bit of old enemies joining together to fight a greater evil kind of threat. You have the tension of parties that don't trust each other cooperating. That could work.
Yep.
Instead, we now have a plotline within the plotline that is completely separated from the plotline. Because what happens if Kwan wins, right? If Kwan finds La Resistance and she overthrows bad, evil, fascist person in the Stormcoat, what happens? She is now a single colony, completely and utterly defenseless, in the middle of nowhere, in the midst of a genocidal war. She will have achieved nothing beyond weakening her people yet further.
Yep, and pretty much guaranteeing their destruction. That's why this episode did hint at a lot that... Well, I liked the beginning part, when Kwan, basically, the black dude's like, you know, he goes, I can't remember his name because he's so forgettable. Soren, thank you. He basically goes on a tangent about, like, you know, your rebellion's done, like, people are done, like, you gotta work back the debt you owe me. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually, like, that's a direction that you can actually go with the storyline for her, because her storyline should be about her becoming mature and realizing that this rebellion thing, while they might be justified, there's a greater threat. Like, there's the Human Covenant War going on now. Now is not the time anymore. Like, the age of the Insurgency is over, and that's gonna have to wait until the Human Covenant War is resolved. And so it could be, like, building up that for later, or whatnot, and putting aside differences to unite against a common enemy. That would be a far interesting character growth for her, than her just going like, "Ma rebellion, ma army." Your army of Madrigal isn't gonna do jack shit against the Covenant. Like, it's not gonna do you crap, because they're just gonna orbitally bombard your planet and glass you. Like, that's how this works.
And again, that's the problem. It's the entire storyline is irrelevant. And it feels like the character has no place in this storyline. She's not involved in anything. I mean, Soren dragging her back to his silly little space base and go like, you're gonna be a pirate now. At least then she might have been involved somehow later on in the wider storyline. But then, Kwan, after breaking a piece of steel or something with a goddamn rock, hides in the sand and ambushes Soren, the Spartan, and stuns him with... I don't even know what. She apparently has a stun baton now?
Yep, remember it was from the, I know it's easy to forget because it was so fucking boring, but the previous episode, there was stun batons and they were going to her dad's funeral and they started stunning people. I don't even remember her picking that up. I forgot she even had that, but I was coming through the episodes while we're talking, and that's where she got that.
Well, that explains something.
Oh, man.
Also,
yeah, I don't know.
She buries herself completely in the sand. Completely. In like the loose rock and gravel. Perfectly. No sign of having disturbed anything. I'm like, okay, how are you breathing?
She's pretty good at this, okay? Her character just knows how to do that because she lived in the sand. And if you live in the sand, you know how to bury yourself in sand.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, she was only the daughter of, like, the mayor of the entire planet, basically. I'm sure she had plenty of opportunity to, carry out some desert warfare.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. I did like at the end there where they're like, they teased, like, she grabs Soren's gun and points at the back of his head, and she's like, and then it fades to black and cuts to the story we actually care about. I do love that, because it's like, you know she's not going to shoot him.
Yeah, as if
I'd be
the show's like,
surprised if they did.
Maybe she'll kill him. Yeah. Move on.
She's not gonna kill him. Like, be quiet. Like, if she actually does that, then her character would be a dead end anywheres, because it's like, okay, now she killed Soren. What exactly is she gonna do in the storyline now?
Yes, where do we go from here?
Because the problem is narratively they're in a lock. They can't have her kill Soren because that would break her character, and pretending to do the whole like the thing where it's like, oh, did she kill him? It's stupid because why would she? She's not gonna do it, show. So quit pretending. It's cringe. I hate that crap. You have to actually put it with a character that actually might have stakes to it. There's no stakes there.
Now, on the right side, we did have a evolution of the story between, goddammit, character names. Too many of them.
Which one? Describe what they look like and I'll get the names for you.
Dr.
Halsey.
Dr. Halsey, that was it. My brain was stuck on Miranda Keys there for a moment.
Her daughter, yes.
Yes. But yes, Dr. Halsey and John. John finally touches the MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin goes, John... You were kidnapped as a child, John. And he went, oh.
Yeah, that's weird that the MacGuffin just tells him that thing. Like, what? Why? It's like, you were kidnapped as a child.
That's another thing. What the hell is the MacGuffin's interest in any of this? Why is the MacGuffin making them remember at all? What is the point of...
And how could... Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. How come Chief can interact with this device along with Covenant Bitch, right? How come those two can and no other human can? Even though in lore, humans can interact with Forerunner tech.
I mean, hell, even screw at that point. Why is the MacGuffin telling him this? What does the MacGuffin stand to gain from being, John, you were molested as a child?
The only thing I could think of, and it'd be really dumb if it was, is that the MacGuffin is actually a quote-unquote Forerunner AI, or basically what they did to humans, where they turned them into AIs, or something like that, and it has some sort of semi-intelligence, or is intelligent. But the problem is that doesn't make any sense, because the device would have directly interfaced in that case. So, I don't know.
And even then,
I have no idea where this is going.
We return to the question, why is this piece of Forerunner tech so occupied with John's past? What is it trying to achieve?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me at all, actually. Other than the fact that the writers are trying to force MacGuffin to do what they need in order to get John's story, because they need to humanize John. Oh no, that's probably what they're thinking. they probably fell into the trap of, we need to humanize John, the Spartans, because otherwise the people can't empathize with him because his emotions aren't there, because, you know, he's been trained and broken as a person and down into becoming a Spartan. You can't empathize with him if he doesn't have his feelings, don't you know, Arch?
You know, that is what they're trying to do, and they've literally told us as much. The problem is,
it's awful.
It seems like they've ended up in a position where they've decided they're going to tell a story, and MacGuffin is just a way to tell that story, regardless of what the MacGuffin's actually interest in any of this might be. So, MacGuffin does MacGuffin, I guess.
Does whatever the plot demands, yep.
MacGuffin will MacGuffin. What else has happened in this episode of actual story importance? We can move on to Covenant Chick, who is literally fired from a Covenant drop pod. God, if anyone thought the arrival of an entire Covenant warship with a single sole human survivor aboard was suspicious, this is the next step up from that again.
Yeah. Dumb, because, like, okay, right, let's set the scene for everyone. There's a big battle. The humans have just fended off the Covenant, but the Covenant stole the artifact and have just fled. But as their ship is fleeing, you know, the hundreds of UNSC soldiers on the ground and the everywhere else are looking at the ship. There's a little bit of smoke in the way, and you see from the dropship as it's about to enter slip space and leave, it shoots down a drop pod and shoots some plasma bolts to pretend to, like, cover it up. Which is dumb. So what happens is the drop pod hits the ground and the human stumbles out and faints. Not damaged, not scarred. And remember, the Covenant are genocidal, for those who aren't familiar with Halo, about humans. They kill them all. Why would they have a human prisoner, even if they took one, right? A civilian, and then just let them go? No, that doesn't make sense.
It's an obvious setup, a ridiculously obvious setup, and hopefully it'll be treated as such, but I doubt it. Now, what'll be interesting is, what will the MacGuffin do if second human touches MacGuffin? Will MacGuffin do the same thing and go, ooh, you were also abducted as a child by the Covenant, ooh, look, they've played mind games with you.
God. That's what the MacGuffin does. It tells you if you've been mind-fucked or not.
Maybe. Wow. Okay, here's what happened. Here's what happened, okay? MacGuffin is not a map to the rings. MacGuffin is not a weapon. MacGuffin is literally a daycare AI from the Forerunners.
Yep, and basically there to help them. Like, oh, you had a hard time. Let me help you. I'm gonna make you remember things so you feel better. So, oh my god.
It is a childcare psychiatric device. That's what the MacGuffin is.
Used by Forerunner psych docs. Oh my god, that's great. Now see, that would be a plot twist.
That would be one hell of a plot twist, and yet the most realistic one so far.
It would at least explain why it's doing what it's doing.
Oh, heavens. But all of this, really, here's the thing too, all of these bad plot points really does pale in comparison to finally getting an episode of Halo. And it just makes me think as well that if they were just going to, if they just did Halo, I wouldn't even care about this other shit. I would be like, yeah, plot's a little bit derpy here and there, but the action's really, really cool, and Master Chief is behaving like Master Chief. It would be a fan-pleasing show. But, well, before we get too excited, we'll have to wait and see until the next episode if they keep this up. Because if they do, I'd still struggle to recommend it due to 3 episodes of absolutely goddamn nothing whatsoever. But if it finally begins picking up the pace, turning into an actual Halo show, only occasionally interrupted by Pablo's need to take off his goddamn bucket, then we might actually have a decent little show here on our hands. And tellingly, it's decent because it is doing less story.
Yeah, the writers for the show, they don't have the skill to do what they're trying to do. And it does not help the fact that this show isn't even canon. Nothing they've done is relevant to Halo at all. It has nothing to do with Halo's lore or anything of that nature. It's just the same names and places of certain things are identical to Halo. That's it. Because it's not canon. Oh, that part annoys me. But you're right. If the show is just action and Halo references and it was its own separate thing, I could almost overlook that. But it's not. We've had 4 episodes of relative misery for 1 episode of rightness. It's like, hey, it was good. It had some good parts in it. And the good parts were when they stopped talking.
When they started shutting up more.
Just stop talking. Yes, more of that. That'd be beautiful.
And if they continue to shut up, like, that will be the great test from now on. What will happen in the remaining episodes with the total of 9, I believe. So we're now on episode, this was number 5, I think. So we got 4 episodes left to go. If those episodes are actiony episodes, maybe. But if we now get another 3 episodes of talking and then finally 1 climactic shooty bang bang end,
That's gonna suck.
Maybe this is the strategy.
Go ahead.
Maybe this is the strategy, all right? The show does one cool thing, and then it drags you along for 3 episodes to the point where you are so very near of just abandoning everything and saying, fuck it, I'm out. And then it goes, but hold on, weapons fire.
Oh my god. See, isn't that sad, right? The show has tricked us into thinking that this episode is good because it's made 3 horrible episodes and 1 mediocre one. And it's like, hey, here's an okay episode. And it's not actually good, it's not actually great, but in comparison to the rest, it stands above so much that you're like, wow, that episode was really nice. And I have a feeling that a lot of people are echoing that statement online. They're like, this episode was great compared to the rest. Well, actually, this episode's okay. The story elements that happened are really dumb, but it had action, and that action alone is it's helping, because this show has been starved of it. Like, the action sequences in the show sucked. Remember the last action scene in the previous episode with the chase scene? That was embarrassing. And that was the action scene for that episode.
The thing is, we've been so starved of actual entertainment that the introduction of a series of bright flashing lights on screen is enough for us to go, ooh, blinky lights, yes.
Yes, you have accurately described our reaction to episode 5. There was blinky lights, and that was a lot more entertaining than anything else. The references to the game were nice, though. There were some things that were a little weird, but you had a teardrop dropship, you had a phantom, you had jackals, you had grunts, you even had a brute? Like, what? There's Halo stuff in this? Get out of here.
We may have been reduced to the literal level of monkeys staring into flashlights, but
Thank you, Halo show.
at least it was better than the talky bits.
That's true.
Oh, heavens. Right, well, we'll have to see how it goes from here. More shooty bang bang, and I'll be far happier. But I have a sneaking suspicion that next episode will be 55 minutes of hearing Covenant chick whinge and whine. I was abused by the elite. By the way, can I have a look at the artifact?
Just a little peek.
May I touch your triangle, sir?
John's gonna put his triangle into her triangle hole.
Together, we combine to make, I don't know, even Transformers, I guess.
Oh god, their bones snapped to make something else. Oh, terrible.
Hey, you know what would be really interesting too is if Gun Grease Spartan goes, hold on, maybe pellet was a good idea.
Maybe. We'll have to find out, though.
She rats
Put
out
the pellet
John.
back in.
John removed his pellet. This will inconvenience him. I must put pellet back inside John. That would be an interesting plot point. Spartan on Spartan warfare.
Spartan on Spartan warfare. But they know John removed his pellet. But they didn't know that grease gun hair lady did. Ah, grease gun hair. The fact that they kept that in this episode annoyed me. It was like, so you just kept the grease in your hair. You even admitted that you thought it was dumb and you thought you should remove it. Like, and he's just like, I keep that in. That's part of my character. My color of my hair changed.
At least they pointed it out. God bless Black Spartan Man.
Ugh. Help me. The show has depleted my hope in life and humanity.
It'll be better from now on, Kyle. It'll be better.
I don't think so.